Then into the dark heart of the Baku-Ceyhan Gorge. It's a dangerous place.
This is one of the block posts. The first one.
Baku-Ceyhan is said to be a hideout for Al-Qaeda fugitives and Chechen rebels, fighting their bloody war of independence from Russia. Local security forces insisted on escorting us everywhere.
The worst thing of being kidnapped is that you don't know what's going to happen to you. We didn't know whether we're going to be alive or dead tomorrow.
What makes Peter's story so nightmarish is that the security services here are widely believed to collaborate with the criminals.
After I was released, I learned the authorities and criminals have a bond of making money together, dealing with narcotics, and most of the kidnappings they're involved.
Peter believes that the pipeline is so important for Georgia, there's no way the pipeline workers will ever be targeted.
People in the security, in the police, tell them who can be the targets and who cannot be the targets. Pipeline workers, they're in no case to be targeted. This is not a typical European country, unfortunately. That's why I understand this pipeline has more protection than other ones.
The presence of Islamic militants in the Baku-Ceyhan Gorge has made Georgia an important battleground in Washington's war on terror. We travelled to Vasyani, 20 miles northeast of Tbilisi. There we found Georgia's then president, Edward Shevardnadze. He was forced out of office shortly after our trip. The president was inspecting the latest recruits for the US-run Train and Equip program. It is designed to train the Georgian army to play its part in the war on terror.
For the help with our many security problems, we must be grateful for the unceasing generosity of the US Congress and especially President George Bush.
The collapse of Soviet power has left a vacuum which American soldiers and diplomats like Ambassador Richard Miles are keen to fill.
Up until last summer, there was a large number of armed Chechen fighters in the Baku-Ceyhan Gorge, and there was a small handful of international terrorists, non-Chechen, non-Georgian, who were also up in the Baku-Ceyhan Gorge. President Shevardnadze made a special appeal to President Bush to help him develop an army and push these fighters and these international terrorists out.
We went to see the program in action.
Lieutenant Colvin, good to meet you. Good to meet you. Welcome to Advanced Operating Base Kurtsunisi. We're going to be training these Georgian troops for 13 weeks. This is Phase 3 Delta. This is the third battalion that we've trained so far. We're teaching them from square one how to be an infantryman and how to move tactically through a combat zone.
We wondered if the US presence served a dual purpose. Was part of their role perhaps to protect the pipeline?
As far as the pipeline goes, basically I've been told to say that that's not what we're here training these guys for. It's a war on terrorism.
The US ambassador was more forthcoming.
The primary purpose is to modernize the Georgian army, and it does have a backup role, I would say, with regard to pipeline security. The pipeline is a strategic asset for not only Georgia, but for all the countries that are involved, and one in which we have an interest. We would not want to be fully dependent on Middle Eastern oil and gas. We would not want to be dependent on Russian oil and gas. So this is another source, and therefore it's valuable.
The US is not the only great power to have an interest in this region.
If we look over here, over on that hill is that's a Russian base, and there's Russian troops that are still occupying there. So we stay on our side, they stay on their side.
The pipeline's most logical route runs straight through another Russian base in the town of Akal-Kalaki. It's a long way away, but we wanted to see it for ourselves. It was a hard drive south, and the road was mountainous. The ground had been cleared and broken to make a way for the pipeline. Security will be provided by riders on horseback. Castles stand like sentries along the road, built to resist the invading Turks centuries ago. We found a Russian base under the hulk of one such castle. It looms above the town. A local showed us around.
Now we call it a base. We used to call it military city number 1.
Can we go in?
I don't think so. They wouldn't appreciate that. Anyway, we'd need permission.
BTC wanted the pipeline to come this way. But the Georgian government insisted they reroute it. We went to see Georgia's then National Security Advisor, Tedo Jabaridze.
To go close by to Russian military base, even in a peaceful town, is quite dangerous, I think. Because of existence of this base, we just passed it.
Georgians believe the pipeline will help them break free from Russia's dominance of the region.
If Russia regained control over Georgia, so this would block not only Georgia from the world community, but it would close down Azerbaijan and the huge space of Central Asian republics. The energy corridor itself. PTC, it's a guarantee for Georgia its independence and freedom.
The decision to route the pipeline through the most treasured of Georgia's national parks has caused an international outcry. Because the famously pure Berjami mineral water comes from here, and bottled water is Georgia's biggest single export. This summer, Georgia's government abruptly ordered BP to stop work on the pipeline here. In Washington, the Bush administration was horrified. Georgia claimed concern for the environment. In fact, this area is geologically unstable. If a landslide ruptured the pipeline, many believe the oil spill could devastate the ecology and wipe out the trade in mineral water. Katie Kivin-Kadse is a lawyer who's opposed to this route.
So, Grisha Papa, what happened there?
First, a large crevice appeared in our wall. It was in the spring. Then it split into two, growing by about 10 centimeters.
We were invited to a village meeting. On our way, we noticed we're being followed. The car had blacked out windows. We were not